Mr. Ambassador,
Yes.
let me thank you for accepting us here in the Embassy of Mexico in Azerbaijan. For us, it's great pleasure to be here today. And I've prepared some very interesting questions for you, and I hope we'll have very nice interview. Thank you very much.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to receive you, yes, and through you to all your audience as well. And to thank you very much, Jenny Jacques, for the opportunity to be talking about these important issues.
Mr. Ambassador, how do you assess the political ties between Mexico and Azerbaijan?
Very good. They have been progressing very much in the past years. And I'll give you just some data, some information about it. It's, as you know, the relations started in 1992. From January the 14th in 1992, that's when diplomatic relations started between both our countries. And during some years, distance was a problem. It is still a problem, to be frank, with over 12,000 kilometers. But some years went by. But everything really started to develop between both countries as of 2007, 2009. Why? Because of that year, that's when the Azerbaijani government opened its embassy in Mexico City. Mm-hmm. And that's when really things started to work and start growing very much. As we'll later see, if we talk about trade, then you'll see how it grows. And then a very important issue as well was in 2014. That's when the Mexican embassy opened. And you can see very much as to how that has contributed to improve the relation very much. 2015, I arrived to this beautiful country, amazing, surprising country. And it has been growing steadily. We've been able to have now the political mechanism consultations between both countries. The second, we're planning hopefully to have the third one this year as well. But more relevant is also the other type of political ties. For example, the Azerbaijani government and Azerbaijani government officials have been present in Mexico. One of the most recent one was Minister Foreign Affairs Mamadov. He went to Mexico in 2018 in December for the formal exchange of power. In Mexico in 2018, as in Azerbaijan, we had elections. And the change of government happened in Mexico on December the 1st. And Minister Mamadov went to Mexico precisely to signify the relevance that Mexico has for Azerbaijan, and he was able to have some meetings there as well. Furthermore, these relations are steadily growing very much through the efforts of both governments, and I can signify this by the fact that in 2017 we signed an agreement, a cooperation agreement between both governments dealing with science, education, youth, sports, and culture. These are very large areas, all in all, everything in one agreement. That was very important. But the most important thing is that it took us some time, particularly for the Mexican government, the Azerbaijani government. Now they did move forward a lot more faster than we did. But we finally got everything through Mexican Congress, the Senate, and the approvals. And as of February 22nd of this year, the agreement has come into force. And this is very congratulatory note, because it will propel the cooperation between both countries in a very more dynamic way. We already have presence in culture, in science, in all these issues we talked about. Today, for example, with the International Gymnastics Cup, there's a Mexican team. We have 4 gymnasts, 2 ladies and 2 men. And today they're going to participate in the qualifications for that matter. And Mexican gymnasts have been coming forward. So yes, they're growing very much. It's been going forward very much.
In what areas can Mexico and Azerbaijan establish strong cooperation? How do you think?
I imagine almost anything. I would just say the imagination is the limit. We have to overcome some basic initial challenges. And we're doing that little by little. One of them is distance. There's about 12,600 kilometers between Mexico and Baku. So it's not easy to make it one simple direct flight. But if we've been able to do this, trade has increased, tourism has increased as well. And so that's one. Another part is we need to find common languages, because languages, it's not a barrier, it's something you can work with. In Mexico, we speak Spanish. Hablamos español. And if we're lucky, we can speak some English.
Yes.
Burada, it's complicated for us. And maybe we can learn some Russian. Можно говорить чуть-чуть по-русски, да?
But you speak Russian very well.
No, неправда.
No, really.
У вас есть большое сердце, но это неправда. But the language is something. But the one thing is, I have found is languages or the words we speak are important because they facilitate communication. But the most important thing is to be able to feel you and I. So we speak the language. If the hearts are speaking, if you are feeling me and I can see you, you can feel, that's the way you speak. And at the end of the day, it's what I see in exchange and programs of cooperation and things we're trying to do in cooperation. I remember 2 years ago, the Mexican Institute of Oil, el Instituto Mexicano del Petróleo, of Petroleum, came to town, and it's very well known in Latin America, in the United States and Canada and Europe. Not as much on this hemisphere. It's a whole hemisphere differently. And when they came here, one of the first things, they put a booth in the oil and gas conference over at the Baku, at the exhibit, the exposition, the Expo Center. You find it in the Expo Center, and one of the first things that people said on the very first day it opened, and you find Instituto Mexicano del Petróleo. Hey, great, you feel great. And somebody comes by and says, "What are you doing here? Who are you?" But yes, we're oil, and that's something you start finding. I'm getting to the point that we started getting the Mexican people from the Institute and the Azerbaijani people from SOCAR, from the SOCAR Institute of Design of Oil and things, and you started talking. Yes, they speak language, they speak English. But basically they speak the same language, the same communication. And I mean, they both spoke oil. So they started talking about oil, if it's sweet, if it's deep, if it's, I never thought oil could be sweet, but they talk about sweet or acidity and things like that. Upstream, midstream, downstream, things they talk about. So they're talking about the same language. And that's the main point. So once we started talking with the same language, because we want to help each other, we want to contribute, then that's when we can really see that. What areas you asked?
Yeah.
I'll start with trade, if you allow me, because it's somewhat easier. Those numbers show very much. The relation has been going since 1992.
Yes.
I have information from 1995 until 2014. The annual average trade between Mexico and Azerbaijan was $2.1 million per year. Nil. It's basically nothing. That's 95 to 2014. But from 15 to 19, the average rose and has risen to over 28 here. Let me find here something. The average was 28.2 million. So that's what a very important increase. However, the most important thing relevant is that last year, according to statistics of Azerbaijan, the trade grew to $52 million. That means we went to an average 2.2 to 52. It's an increase of over 25 times. That's a very drastic number. It shows that we're here to come, we're here to stay. Mexico is discovering that Azerbaijan is not only a country, but it's also a partner we can work with. Yeah. We can do things. And here, I don't know if, maybe I'll give you this so you can show it, but you can see, for example, the graph. This is basically the story of trade, and you can see it's basically just almost doing nothing. There's a big spike in here, a large one here, and then it spirals up. What I'm going to is that, why is this? Because this is the year that the Azerbaijani embassy opened in Mexico. So hey guys, Mexico, Azerbaijan is here, there's a new embassy, let's start working. Comes down. By that time, there was the world recession, the financial recession and then the virus AH1N1 in Mexico. It was complicated, but then it started growing, and you can see this point. It's an increase between 14 and 15. And I can say that in this year, that's where the embassy opened. This is when I arrived, and this is where we're going. This is last year. So you can see the spiral. It's growing very much. It's very surprising in that sense. In that sense, for example, it's what type of products we can do. Almost anything. Mexico is a very large economy. It is around $1.3 trillion. 1.3 trillion, you can say that easily, but $1.3 trillion is roughly 80% of Russia's economy. So you can imagine the economy of Russia, 80% of that is Mexico. So there's a lot. We've developed more into manufacturers. And you can see some of those products being present. For example, as we'll see here, there are certain areas, this one is very good, in which you get to see there are Mexican products already making a presence, an important presence in the Azerbaijani market. Naturally, both countries, we are oil producers.
Yeah, I agree.
And so the oil industry is a natural one, so much that between 9 to 12% in the past, 9 to 13% last year of pipes, 40 centimeter pipes, were imported from Mexico for the Azerbaijani oil industry. 18% of oil bits and drilling instruments to make holes, to make tunnels, they're imported from Mexico as well, which is surprising knowing the distance, but it's natural because we're both partners. We're doing the same thing. We're learning between ourselves what we're doing and what we're not. Another part, surprisingly also, was not surprising, it's growing, it's Mexican beer. 12% of beer imported into Azerbaijan is Mexican.
Really?
Yeah, yes, really.
That's really very nice information.
But the most surprising thing, I mean, there are several points, but the most surprising thing was, and I think I have the graphs, I'm here. But the most surprising thing one is Mexico produces, the size of the Mexico's economy allows it to become a very important one in several things. We are the largest producers of flat TVs in the world. Of those plasma TVs, flat TVs, we're the first producer in the world. We are the largest producer also of refrigerators 2 doors in the world.
Yeah.
We are the largest producers of cell phones. If it's a specific brand, it's Mexico made, but there's other brands throughout the world, yes. We're the 3rd largest producer of that. So it shows the size of the economy there. On that point, for example, beer, we are the largest beer exporter in the world. Not the United States, not Germany, but Mexico.
Yeah.
And also, because of that, the electronics industry is very much important in Mexico. And Mexico was supposed, I don't have the data right now, but it was supposed to produce last year 5 million cars, 5 million vehicles. 5 million cars. And not surprisingly, guess what is making a presence in the Azerbaijani market? Cars, vehicles. In 2016, Azerbaijan imported 5 units, only 5 units. In 2017, they imported 125, if I'm not mistaken. In 2018, imported around 500. Last year, I don't have the numbers right now yet, but we estimated that the number for 2019 would have come to 1,200 units. That's an exponential increase from 5 units to 1,200 in just a lapse of 4 years. It's a specific brand, a specific type, but it's amazing. So, in this matter of trade, we have seen trade grow very much. Very importantly, it's still small. I mean, it's $52 million, but it's important. We have seen that in the several tariffs of the whole universe, of the whole tariff commercial universe, for the past 2-3 years, we have seen around 30 to 40, maybe 50, around 40 different tariffs in which the import of Mexican products into Azerbaijan is only in the amount of $3,000, $4,000, which is a very small amount. Considering that just to ship that product from Mexico to Azerbaijan costs approximately that or even more. So I ask, what is it that an Azerbaijani is importing from Mexico in such a small amount and costing them to transport as much? And I say what they're doing is they're testing the product because they're hearing more about Mexico. I hope you've been hearing more about Mexico in this past years. If so, the embassy is working. If not, we need to work more. But they've been hearing about Mexico and the industry and we producers and things. So what I believe they're doing is they go, hey, there's somebody saying about Mexico, so let's bring something from Mexico. Come try. And if it works, guess what? They import more. So maybe that explains. There are also other issues with avocados. 1 out of 3 avocados in the world is Mexican. You've already find Mexican lemons in the market as well. Not as much the quantity I would like to, but yes. But 1 out of 3 avocados in the world is Mexican, so that represents that. 1 out of 2 tomatoes in the U.S. market is Mexican. So it shows that agro-industry is working, and that's another area where we can also cooperate to try to cooperate with Azerbaijan in developing seeds to resist the weather, the climate things, because we have also similar conditions in Mexico. So that is, there's lots of issues. So avocado is something that's already coming. It's very small amounts. We want to increase that. We have to increase that so that Azerbaijanis can enjoy guacamole, aguacate, the real things, and tacos.
We enjoy really.
Well, you have even more. And so trade is definitely a very strong area in which we can do that. There are some, culturally, Mexico, of course, is very well known for other drinks. Something like tequila. Whoever drinks tequila will enjoy it very much, mezcal. The numbers of imports of tequila from Mexico to Azerbaijan, they have increased very much. Last year it should reach around $800,000 from an amount $300,000 about 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. It's growing very much. And last year was the first ever recorded direct export from Mexico to Azerbaijan of tequila. What I want to say with a direct export. Tequila has been present in Azerbaijan for some years now, and people know about it. But it's coming, when you make the analysis and go through the numbers and statistics, you find out that trade between Mexico and Azerbaijan happens about 50 to 60% through third countries. That is, somebody exports from Mexico and they send it to Frankfurt, to Paris, to London, to Dubai. And then they get re-exported to Azerbaijan. So we have found that, and therefore tequila came through third countries. I've heard about imports of tequila coming from Tallinn, which is definitely not Mexico, but originally comes from Mexico, or from Frankfurt, or from Poland, from Kiev, I heard. So last year was very important because it was the first time that a direct Mexican export of tequila was made directly from Mexico to Azerbaijan. We get very recorded, and that's part of what we've been working to try to do. I promote relations between Mexico and Azerbaijan. Definitely, I do that every minute of the day, every moment when I see you, when I'm able to talk to your audience and to your people. But I say I don't really like to just to promote the trade or industry or construction. And no, I want to promote and find what. Let's assume that there's an Azerbaijani importer or producer or constructor that he wants a bolt or a screw, which has to be just 3 inches long, 1/4 shaft with an hexagonal head, but a left twist, not a normal right twist of the thread. So what I do is I go back to Mexico and find the specific producer of such a screw. 3/4 left thread, and therefore I know that if I sit them down, put them together, one will be speaking English, Spanish, then one will speak Azerbaijani, but they'll speak in the same thing, and they'll just say, screw, I want 2, no, make it 3, how much into numbers, and you get the price. That's the way to really go. And so we've been trying to really identify importers and distributors that are wanting to try Mexican products, quality products, making the way competitive as well. So it's a good way, and we've been able to get that. One example, precisely, it's about tequila, because we've been able to have 3 commercial missions, 4 commercials, 3 commercial missions from Mexico. One we made it to Azerbaijan, to Mexico from Azerbaijan, but 3 coming from Mexico. And they come here, we bring 10 people, 12 people, and I tell them, hey, it's a long trip. So you might as well be ready just to sit down and make numbers, because you don't have enough time, just work around that. And after that, we put them with importers and distributors, and they're able to talk face to face with the product, taste it, see the quality, and then they start talking. And that's the way it was finally achieved that last year, around October, was the first ever recorded direct export of Mexican tequila to town. And this year we're planning to bring, yes, not only tequila producers, but also other producers of prepared food. Why prepared food? Yes. But it has to be canned or vacuum because it has to survive a long trip between Mexico and Azerbaijan.
Yeah, long way.
So it has to survive, a shelf life, a long shelf life, which has to survive the transport and the shelf life. So they should be canned, or in flask, or in jars, things like that, with a vacuum, please, in order to make the 45-day trip and then stay here. But we're planning to bring this year salsa producers, for example, guacamole producers as well, already prepared, some chips, other Mexican products associated with tequila or just with Mexican culture in itself. And I'm sure that we will find importers and distributors in town, and they will like it. I'm sure that if I give you a good guacamole, you will like it. You want to tell the supermarket, hey, we need to bring this.
Of course,
That's
like a recommendation.
Yeah. Now, if you recommend it, by all means, they will have to import. Yes, they will allow them to. And I will get them the producers in Mexico so they can sell it, and they can buy it, they can bring it, and you get to taste it. And if you get to taste it, I get to try it here as well. So it will be good. So trade is very much important. Also reflecting into this is tourism. Mexico last year was the 7th most visited country in the world, with over 42 million visitors. That's an easy number, but you have to recall in 2012, Mexico received 16 million visitors. In the lapse of 6 years, we grew to 39, and last year, new government, we got to 42. That's a almost threefold increase in number of visitors. Very important. Why? Because Mexico has lots of touristic offers to present to Azerbaijani people and to the world. We offer you beaches. Beautiful beaches. You've heard about Cancun.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Well, you have. Yes, it's beautiful. It's beautifully crusted. Fantastic. It's really very nice. But that's just one beach. Mexico has over 11,000 kilometers of coasts. So if every kilometer only had just one beach, which is not the case, but if only had one beach, you have in Mexico over 11,000 beaches to see. They're all different. They're in the Pacific, in the Atlantic, in the Caribbean, Gulf of Cortez, very different nature all in all. But yes, beaches. But then you have the weather is nice, climate is good, it's warm, it's hot, we have mountains, but we have beautiful panoramas as well.
Yeah, it's very important.
Another good attractiveness of Mexico in touristic terms is the cities. Cities are old, ancient. There are some very colonial. Guanajuato, beautiful. It's in that San Miguel de Allende. They're fantastic in that sense. Then you have food, gastronomy. It's part of UNESCO, the World Heritage. So it's very good tasty. I mean, yes, of course, tacos, but chicharrón, mole, pancita, quesadillas, sesos, everything. We have a caviar in Mexico, not of sturgeon, but of ants. It's amazingly tasty. It's a delicacy. It's fantastic. Really incredible. So there's a lot of gastronomy really to offer everybody in that sense. Then we have culture. They're great artists. I mean, everybody here knows about Frida, Diego, Siqueiros, who visited Baku in the 60s. And so there's a story behind that. Then you have indigenous people, because they're all in all, and they have their own way of life. We have the cities. So what we do is there's a program called Pueblos Mágicos, magic towns, and what these towns offer you is the colonial, the food, people, the surroundings, the pyramids, everything just one place. And therefore you want to go there because you get to spend several days enjoying different things at the same time. It's not just the beach, it's several places at the same time. And that's a good way to promote and get there. It's been also a matter of promoting and developing cooperation links and sharing experiences with other countries as well. That's also a good way to try to cooperate with Azerbaijan. Culture, it's very much the same thing. We've been working very much in trying to, I believe we're one of the most active embassies in that sense, but I say that, of course. But we've been able to bring paintings, and the embassy is not accredited to Baku. The embassy is accredited to the country, to Azerbaijan.
Yes.
So when we bring things, we try to bring them to Baku, yes, but then also take them to the regions. And so we have presented, we had an itinerary painting exhibit. So we had the exhibit, and we took it to Ganja, to Mingan Shavir, to Gabela, to Samaje. We took it They were there. We also brought a pianist, and yes, he played here in town, but then we took it throughout the ones. Oh yes, David Toscana. We did not take him to other cities, but we will take him. I'm pretty sure he will come again this year. That's a good. Thank you for mentioning that. It's a good way to try to develop understanding between both our countries, because something the embassy has been trying to do is to overcome the large unawareness that we have regarding the other. In Mexico, Mexicans do not know what Azerbaijan is in general. But there's points, and Azerbaijanis don't really know what Mexicans are. We're starting to develop them. Bridges. Let me put it this way. When I came to town some 4 years ago, I come here and I find that Azerbaijan has Tarhun.
Yes.
So it's Tarhun bar. And we, que es bis estragon bar. It's la misma plant. Sorry, it's the same plant. But you use it for a lemonade.
Yes.
And we grind it and we use it as a spice. Before coming to town, I would have never thought about using Tarhun as a lemonade. Who would have thought of it? You did. You use it as a spice. So we're sharing. We can learn about that. And one day I was going to the market and to the Yashel Bazaar, and I see that and I tell my wife, look. And I say, what? Parpatiyun, sis parpatiyun var, biz verdolagas var. Again, the same plant.
The same plant. Yeah.
But you're using it mostly the stem. We use mostly the leaves. You use it for a vinaigrette, and we use it for a stew. So that's what I say in the sense that if we're able to share, we will both learn and we'll both learn and grow together. A way of sharing understanding. Another way to see the links that both countries have is also the history. We're both millenary cultures, writing cultures, and of course, Azerbaijanis, they love, passion for love, yes. And you have ¿qué es esto? Ali Nino, Leila Bameshnun.
Yeah.
And you heard about Mexicans as well through some of the soap operas at that time, as Bagati Toche Plachet.
Of course.
Y Prosta Maria.
Of course.
And you know that.
Everyone saw it.
So that's
Everyone.
So it's a way to understand, and you see the links. And literature, therefore, is very, very important. I came to town and I found that one of the most important pieces in literature, not only Mexican, but Latin American literature, which is Pedro Páramo, of Mexican author Juan Rulfo, was translated to Azerbaijani. It's a great way to give and leave a very good seed for things to develop. I've worked here with the people to try to present and explain the images, what the author wanted to say. And as you know, last year, David Toscana came, presented the books, and very good impressions, very good. So much that we're working right now to develop the translations of some of David Toscana's works into Azerbaijani, which is also a good way to present and develop. And therefore, it's just to grow. I am certain that if we know more about each other, we will see each other more, we will have each other more in our minds, we will care each other more for each other, and it's a matter of just developing and growing. So that would be tourism. Culture, I told you something about that.
Gastronomy, yeah.
Gastronomy, mariachi, you know music, the mariachi group, you know? Mariachi is a Mexican troupe band with these sombreros, and they're playing, it's just a group just marching musicians, guitars, violins, and things. When I got to town, there's no mariachi. And they're playing in a restaurant nearby the Flag Square. And what it is, it's a great way to present the Mexican music, the Mexican life, because the sombrero, it follows the guitars, the liveliness, the Mexican music, and so on. So it's a great way to put it forward. Culture, I believe, is truly one of the best vehicles to get linked, to know somebody else, to see you in the eyes and make you understand what I feel, what you feel, because we're able to communicate. And now, after being here, I know about Mugam.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very sentimental. To be frank, at the beginning I didn't know what it was. But then you start paying attention and you start hearing the words. Man, sevirami. Oh, they're speaking, they're singing. Wow, it's very impressive.
Expressing their feeling.
Yeah.
Through the music.
Through the music. Then, of course, food. I've talked about the mole. Mole is fantastic. The tacos are great. The salsas and all everything. But I have to admit, I came to town and I found, I discovered great chocolate thing. It's a PT.
Yes.
It is good, of course. Then you have what's it, dolma. That was my first dinner in town. I arrived in dolma. It was amazing. The dish, very, very nice. But what I find the best is lula kebab. Lula kebab.
Which dish is a favorite for you?
Mine?
Yeah.
Basically everything. But if I were to have a choice, maybe I would go for lula kebab.
Why?
Why? Because it has the taste. It's I mean, it's been grilled to the point. In very unique grills, by the way, because they're not that. They're small, but still large. But it's well lit. The flavor is good. It reminds me a little of Mexico. We don't have that similarity. We have some other type of food, but it's tasty, to be frank. And culturally and gastronomically, we arrived here, and then the first weekend we were here, my wife and I went to the boulevard. We're walking, it was down to a place, and then they bring here something green, some vegetables there, and you look at them and thought, well, it looks very nice, and that was it. But then I started seeing other tables, people, they're saying the same greens, goyarte, and you see, and they start eating the things, wow. But you start doing the same thing, and guess what? It tastes very good. I even like it a lot more than my own. Everywhere in the world where you go, they serve salad, but already prepared. All the vegetables cut, prepared with lemon and stuff. And here you serve them by themselves. You have the onion, the tarragon. You have the albahaca, basil. The basil and the pomidor, the tomato and things like that. You have them just there. And when you try them, I feel great because I feel as if I had gone to the woods, harvested themselves, and brought it and placed them together. Now when I go to my home to Mexico, I sometimes offer the same goyarte to people, and they say, well, what are we going to do with this, Rodrigo? We're going to eat it. What? And you eat it, and it tastes very nice. It's good. It's part of me now. So gastronomy is a way to show, to see, and understand people who they are, how we are, and how we can share, we can learn essentially. So that would be culture. Culture has lots of opportunities. Another area we're trying to develop, thanks to the agreement I just mentioned a little while ago, that came into force past February 22nd, 2020, is science. Science is of great importance that will determine the future of too many things. And Azerbaijan has great astronomy. So do we. Azerbaijan, I even found a new area that we're trying to put together. It's about volcanology. And I said, why volcanoes? Because we have great volcanoes, large. But guess what? Half of the volcanoes, mud volcanoes of the world are located in Azerbaijan. And one day I found an atlas of mud volcanoes. Yes, Azerbaijan. And guess what? I saw that Mexico also had mud volcanoes. Oh, so then I started talking to Mexicans and say, hey, there's mud volcanoes. And that's a way to develop little by little. Yes. Exactly, just to share and to learn basically customs. And that's what I've been, when I go throughout the country, throughout the regions, you see different ways of construction, of eating, of behaving. But at the same time, you always have the feeling of people receiving you, hosting you, and then say, hey, Mexico, Mexico, yeah. So it's a good way to start and develop. And that's been basically the function of the embassy right now, to try to develop this. It's sports, another issue. Trying to develop this because Mexico has, in some disciplines, Mexico has developed very much. For example, taekwondo, in box, in diving. Yeah. And therefore, we can share and learn practices from Azerbaijan in areas in which Azerbaijan has developed as well. If you're in gymnastics, in weightlifting, in wrestling, Greco-Roman and not. And then we can get together and share our experiences, benefit. And this has happened in the past. The Azerbaijani national team, boxing team, has gone to Mexico to practice a whole week, something of a camping, let's say, before an international meet. Also taking into consideration that since Mexico City is very high in altitude, the oxygen is different, and so therefore people in Mexico City have a different grade of hemoglobin. And so athletes go up there, they develop more hemoglobin. If you have more air way to transport air, oxygen to your cells, then when you go to other meets, you make the same effort, but you have better enhancement, better development, very well execution of things. So it's a way to share that and learning it. Essentially, cooperation is just as long as you want, I can.
Yeah.
And share it together.
The Embassy of Mexico constantly organizes cultural events in Baku. They are a lot. Are any events expected in the nearest future?
Yes, of course. Of course.
Can you give some information?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Can you give some information?
Yeah, of course. Well, among the things, yes, we're planning to bring David Toscana once again, yes, to try to follow up, and so therefore we need to work on the translations and get this developed. Music. We've been able to bring in the past marimba player, pianist. We're going to bring another pianist, some violin. We're trying to work maybe for a ballet to make it over here. That's that's more complicated because it's a large troupe, but it still makes that. Paintings, photographs. In photographs, for example, we are currently showing in the Baku Metro in Gashlik Station. There's some 90 pictures of the life of Frida and Diego. Very interesting. Just right, Gashlik Metro. Don't miss it. And it's photographs, painting. What is it? Sculpture we had in the moment. This year there's another rock symposium of stone, and through that you have been able to have a Mexican sculpture right in town. Se verán parque. There's a statue called the King by Mexican artists. But most importantly is, in the past we were able to bring statues of Mexican renowned Jorge Marin. You may remember that. It was a show, it's been the largest show in the Relief Center. It was almost a year, 11 months, 2 weeks. 10 statues, large size, monumental, over 2.5 meters in the height. They weighed over 3.6 tons in weight. And the Relief liked it so much, they actually bought several. And you can see several of them in the Relief Center right now. I don't know if you recall them, but if not, I have some photographs. I can show them to you as well. But they're very much so. Sculpture, painting, dancing, the whole thing right now is trying to find them. And the good thing is, movies. Movies is something you also like to present because it's able to show not only the culture of Mexican society, but also try to learn and benefit from the fact that Mexican filmography and film industry has been growing very much in the past years. What is it? Between 13 and 18, 5 of the 6 best directors were Mexican. So Iñárritu, all of these people, they're very. So it's a way to share. What we want to bring is also people, literature, film people, dancing, just to try to learn. And of course, for them it's also a learning experience to try to see this beautiful town, this amazing country. The moment you leave from the airport, you get into, it's a surprise. Everything is a surprise. You never expect it. So even more so. And I'm sure that David Toscana, for example, he's coming again. I'm pretty sure about that. But the important thing is he was here 2 weeks. 1 week he was working. The other one he lived right in the middle of Irshad Shahar. So I'm pretty sure that maybe in a future novel, Irshad Shahar will be reflected in one of David Toscana's. I hope. Let's do that. Would be great. So they're all that. It's just the imagination is really the limit between both of us.
Thank you very much for this interesting interview. That was really great pleasure for us. Thank you.
On the contrary, thank you very much.